Yep.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Southern Reads podcast, the show where I talk about books and only books and everything book related. And today I am joined by Mr. Richard Sparks. Richard is an English-born writer who is now based in Los Angeles and is currently the author of the New Rock fantasy series, including his latest release, New Rock, New Rules. The series draws inspiration from gaming culture, a world Richard discovered later in life, and explores themes of strategy, challenge, and community that reshaped his creativity. Earlier in his career, he was a comedy writer for iconic British shows like Not the 9 O'Clock News and The Secret Policeman's Ball, collaborating with legends including Rowan Atkinson and John Cleese. So he's here today and he's going to share with us his writing journey, share with us a little bit more about his books and just a look the whole author experience and how he's got to where he is today. So Richard, thank you so much for taking time to come on the podcast today. I'm really looking forward to it and welcome to Southern Reads.
Thank you for having me, Noah.
So you've had a very interesting career. You started out your career as a comedy writer, and then you kind of eh, migrated into being a author. Tell me a little bit about how you transitioned from working on TV and working for TV shows into writing your own books.
I always wanted to write books. I think writing books is probably the highest art there is, writing fiction for a writer. Maybe poetry is about the same, but you don't get paid to write books. Nobody's going to pay you straight out of university to sit down and write a novel. Most of us, me included, our first novels aren't necessarily good enough to be published. But there is a need for script writers, for sketch writers, which is what I did for British radio and television sketch shows and stage shows. And there is a need for script writers for television, radio, film. And so those jobs also, they pay a lot better than book writing, unless you're a hugely successful best-selling author. So I wanted to make a living as a writer. I had 2 years in an office job, which I was just a waste of 2 years as far as I'm concerned. It was in television. I was working in a TV company. And while I was there, one of the producers gave me some scripts to write for a local children's show, which was great. My first television credits. But I just wanted to make a living as a writer. And some years it's been fantastic, and other years it's been going to the bank manager and asking for a bit more time to pay my debts back. But I was lucky enough to get a really good job in 1978, 9 it started. I was sent to New Zealand to write a 26-part TV series, which was all shot on film on location. I was meant to be the script editor, but the writer didn't know how to write scripts. He was a book writer. So I ended up writing 23 scripts, and it was a buyout, so they bought all the worldwide rights. So that was a huge chunk of money in 1 year, enabled me to actually to buy a house with a mortgage in London. So I was able to have a roof over my head and say, okay, I've got a house. Now I can just concentrate on writing. I didn't have to worry about making rent. I had two college mates and their girlfriends living with me. And that was just a great time. And I was able to really crack into the process of writing.
So the series that you are the author of, the New Rock fantasy series, as I had mentioned, was kind of inspired by gaming. What was it like discovering gaming later in life, and how did it reshape your storytelling?
Yes, well, it was definitely 40 years after what I've been talking about a moment ago. I discovered gaming. My old friend Douglas Adams, who wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, now sadly no longer with us. He died. We didn't even see the 21st century, but he was a great friend from our university days. And he was always saying, Richard, this game's great. And this game's, and he was into gaming long before I got there. But then Douglas was always ahead of his time. So I'm a keen poker player. So I played online poker and one game moved into another. And I discovered online role playing games where you're with a group of, as you know, like minded crazies charging around all over the world. And not everyone is 15 years old, as I thought. You know, the first guild master I had was an 85-year-old woman who was retiring. But what? Well, people of all ages play games. It's very popular, certainly among the older generation, because they've got the time and they still like adventures and ideas and excitement. and they don't have to charge up and down hills with backpacks. So yes, I was playing an online game one day, and this idea fell out of the sky, and what would it be like to be this heroic young battle mage with a magic staff in real life? Not in a game, but the inspiration is definitely owed to the game. And so my setup is our team of 3 people won the world championship of sword and sorcery online. And just the moment they win the title, they're whisked off in different directions, and the hero's standing on a hillside with a crappy sword and shield going, what the F happened? Where am I? And he's being chased by wolves. So he goes straight from being a world champion to hero to zero at the end of the first chapter. And then things get worse. He may have been good at pushing a mouse around, but now he is his avatar for real. He's not a middle-aged retired school teacher anymore. He's a young battle mage with plenty of energy, but no experience, and he's in a new world, and where are his mates? So that's the setup for the adventures. The third one came out recently. The fourth one comes out in March 27, and that's the end of the series. But they've been just the best challenge and the best fun at the same time to write.
As I had mentioned, you worked with such comedy legends like Rowan Atkinson and John Cleese. What's one lesson from writing for them that you still use today?
I don't think I got any lessons from them. I just wrote. I didn't write any. Oh, no. But I wrote the sketch that launched Rowan's career, which was the schoolmaster sketch, which was in the Secret Policeman's Ball that John produced. I just wrote the sketch and gave it to him one day in rehearsal for a very unsuccessful little 3-person show in a small London theatre. And John Cleese and the producer of not the Nine of the Secret Policeman's Ball saw it, realized that Rowan was the next big thing in comedy, and that my sketch was the best thing in that particular show. And so Rowan called me up a year later and said, John Cleese has asked me to be in his new charity show, and can I do the schoolmaster? And so I said, absolutely. So we went off to meet John Cleese and all our comedy heroes and people like Pete Townsend of The Who. They were all there working away on it. And it's an extraordinary story, actually, because that sketch, Rowan was a nobody. He came on stage a nobody. I'd seen him do it the year before in the little theatre, and a dozen times, and he absolutely nailed it. It was amazing what he did with it. And he came on stage in the Secret Policeman's Ball. Nobody knew who he was, and he walked off a star. It was amazing. And so it was great to be sitting in the audience knowing what was about to hit them, because I'd seen him do it before, and he really is the talent of a generation. And that was just great. So I wrote the words, he did them. Together we made an event, and it's always nice to work with great people. I work with the soprano Danielle Denise, who's she's just got the Olivier Award, a lifetime award, which is the equivalent of the Tonys, the British theatrical award. She got a lifetime award as a soprano classical opera singer. I wrote the first opera she was in at age 16. She just turned 16. So it's lovely to work with people with that level of talent and ability who just know are going to go far. And the Secret Rowan would never have been seen in the Secret Policeman's Ball if John Lewis hadn't, sorry, not John Lewis, Martin Lewis hadn't taken John Cleese to see it. If Roger Grafe, the director, hadn't fought tooth and nail to keep Rowan's sketch in the film, because it was 4.5 hours stage show and it had to cut it down. And ITV, who broadcast it, said, this guy's not famous, we shouldn't have him in the show. And the director fought for Rowan to be in it, and that made Rowan's career start with a bang.
Now, for you, when you were coming up with this series, did you originally want to write a series, or did you see that as writing the book that the characters had to have more of a casual story? How did you go about deciding that you wanted to make the New Rocka series?
Yeah, well, as Tolkien said about The Lord of the Rings, the tale grew in the telling. I had the idea, and I wrote the first draft of the first book and sent it to my agent. And she called me up. It's one of those phone calls you have to pull over at the side of the road, and it's just one of the great phone calls of your life. And she said, "This is exactly what people are looking for. It's adventure, it's fun, it's escapism." And I said, "Oh, well, I'm already in the sequel." She said, "Great, we'll do a 3-book series. I'll sell it as a series." So I said, "Well, look, wait until I've written some more of the following books. Then we'll take it to market because one book is no good to a publisher. They want to know that there's something there they can sell. They don't sell books; they sell authors. So you have to establish yourself. You have to come up with something that has got legs." So I wrote the first three, and halfway through the writing of the fourth one, she made the deal with my excellent publisher, Kasich, who are a very good small uh, house in America, just do science fiction and fantasy. And they took me on the condition that I worked with their editor, and she's brilliant. So that was the first thing I said to my agent was, can't wait to work with a good editor because they make all the difference. And so yeah, we got it done, and it's like finally I got to where I've always wanted to be as a writer, which is produce works of fiction that work, that are good enough, that I'm happy with, and the public is happy with.
Now, your characters face high stakes challenges in strategy. How much of that is influenced by the lessons you've learned from gaming?
Yeah, a lot of it, because in gaming, as you know, there's always another challenge, there's always another delve, there's always another quest, there are always another level, there are another maps that unfold. You might clear one map and you go into the next map and you can't see any of it, so you have to open it up as you go along. So those ideas I kept, but it's not RPG lit, it's not role-playing game literature, which is a separate sub category of fiction, of fantasy fiction. This was just inspired by gaming. So anyone who knows gaming will go, "Oh, I get it. It's like gaming, but in the real world, and our heroes have problems to solve." I mean, there's a reason why they go to this world. It's not, and why they're stuck there forever, and why they've got to do these quests. It's not random, but and that's explained at the end of the first book and sets up the other 3 books in the series.
Since the books have been released and have been out, what's been the reception and critical reviews that you've had from the book so far?
Well, very, very heartening. If you want to go to my website, it's richardsparks.com, easy enough. There's a whole selection of reviews up there. You can sign up for my monthly blog, or no, bi-monthly. Don't I don't try and drop blogs on people all the time. And you can get free sample free sample chapters, one of each book, and also a free audio sample chapter with me reading, because I read the audiobooks. So there are actually 6 chapters available, two from each book, uh, up there, and you can get a taste of the books, and if you like them, come on in, enjoy the adventures with the rest of us. But I'm very happy with the way that people are reacting to it. I go to a lot of conferences. Worldcon is coming up in a couple of months in Los Angeles, which is nice, my hometown. So not much traveling, and it's full of 10,000 people dressed as lizards. It's great.
Now, when it came to trying to classify the genre of the book and what you wanted to write, what genre were you aiming for, and how has is it easy writing for genres? Because I would classify your book, being fantasy and all this. Is it difficult writing fantasy novels?
No, it's just they call it epic fantasy because it's a big, long, sprawling story rather than a short and sweet, and the story develops in its breadth as you go along. It was not in the least difficult once I had the idea, um, it, and then of course I owe a great deal of thanks to my 3 editors. I hired one to help me get it into shape, the first book, and then when I got the publishing deal, I worked with their editor. No, not in the least difficult. I mean, for 40 years, I've learned how to write. Through script writing, I've learned the importance of story structure, which to me is the most important thing in any kind of writing. Is the structure is solid, and no weak points, and also the page turningness. You want to keep reading. I love books where I just can't put them down, and to me, that's the height of a writer's skill, and it's essential to me to drag the audience along by the nose and have them just totally engrossed.
Going forward with this series, where is the series now in its thing? Has a series wrapped up? Are you planning on writing any more books in the future? Where would you like for the your book series to go going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. I started writing the story completes in book four, so I started writing a book five that followed on from it, and there's a simple problem with it. I mean, I've written about 200 pages of it, and some of it's good stuff, but it's not. There's the basic structural point is that it's just the two of them in this story, whereas in the other books, there's the whole group. There's the three, and then the four, and then the other people who come in, and the characters who are in one story but not in the next. So there's a sort of it's the found family that is as it's known in the writing business. So he's got his friends and his allies and his quests, but they're all around him. And writing for just two of them, this isn't as good as the other four books. So I put that aside. I would love to go back to write some more, and I think obviously that whole world is available to me. There's a whole universe available to me that I've discovered for myself, and I think if I do write anymore, it'll be not the next generation, probably the second, the grandchildren will discover something from their past to do with this, and then that will lead them off into the stories and the adventures. So I'd love to write some more, but I've got to clear my head from the last one. At the moment, I'm writing a graphic novel with a friend of mine who's a very established illustrator. So we're having a lot of fun and script meetings and trying to get that into shape. But yes, I don't want to let the new rock world, end with the four books. Nor do my readers. They keep saying, "What are you doing next?"
So, going forward after your series, what's kind of your plans going forward in the future for your writing career? Are you planning on writing any more books? Do you plan on writing, maybe expanding your genre base to try to dabble into more diverse genres?
No, I love the fantasy genre. As a kid, I read every fantasy book I could. The Lord of the Rings and the Narnias and the Phantom Tollbooth and other great books. And I went away from it. I studied English language and literature at Oxford University. So after that, I sort of went off into, away from science fiction and fantasy. Then I discovered that this is where my heart really lies, in fantastic worlds where anything can happen. I mean, as William Shatner says, science fiction is just human beings in other places. So what you're doing with real people in a world that is full of unreal possibilities. I find that very liberating.
What's been the most, for you personally, what's been the most difficult part about writing, or what's something that most people would not fully understand about writing and creating a book in general?
The hardest thing for all of us writers is story structure. It takes a lifetime to learn it. I've been to many classes. I've worked with many great directors and producers and script editors, and we all have to learn the basics of story structure. Which, I mean, you can sum it up simply as being set up and payoff. You have to, if you want something to pay off one way, you've got to set it up so that it logically pays off, but you don't see it coming. If you look, did you see the series, the Game of Thrones series?
I'll be honest, I watched the first episode with my college roommates,
Uh,
and it was just not for me. I
well,
I even tried reading the book too.
the books are very well written. I mean, he's a wonderful writer, but the point is that the ending was not set up. It came out of nowhere, and all the fans are saying, "What the hell happened?" And I agree with them completely. If you want the ending if you want it to end like that, you have to set it up so that it doesn't spring a surprise. And it was because they were writing beyond the books that George Martin had yet written. Uh, but it's actually a great series. I adored it, and I loved all the books. I wouldn't compare my work with his any more than I'd compare them with, say, Terry Pratchett, who writes books that are also have comic elements like mine do. Uh, but yeah, the hardest thing to answer your question is story structure. It's not instinctive. We all know how to write good sentences. I mean, a lot of us know how to write good dialogue. That comes easily to a writer. The hard thing is working out the knots and the who's and the what's and the why's and the where's and the when's and the how's. And that for that to do that, you have to stand outside your story. You can't just write on blithely. heading off into the distance, which is what we all love to do. You have to be able to step aside and look at your outlines and your structures and make your notes and see where you're going. You know, the great comedy writer of the 20th century is P.G. Wodehouse. He's an absolute master. And I heard an audio book that was written 100 years ago and was recorded a few years ago, in which there was an introduction in which P.G. Wodehouse said he loved writing his books, but he didn't enjoy planning them. And he said his planning process took the place of he'd get up to about 120 or 130 pages of notes, and then he'd start writing the book. And I went, what, 130 pages of notes before he started writing? And you know, if it's good enough for a master like P.G. Wodehouse, the rest of us ought to take notice of that. And then he would also write each book and then rewrite it until it was finished. And his books are absolute jewels. They're a joy to read because he does all the work for us. I cannot stand it when I read a book by a lazy writer who leaves me going, well, what's going on here? What's happening here? And that doesn't make any sense because of this. And that just drives me up the wall. But yeah, story structure.
What advice would you give to anyone that's wanting to become a writer, but they don't really necessarily know where to start? What advice do you have for upcoming writers?
Two simple things. One, write what you love. And the second thing is that failure is your best teacher. Write, go ahead, write. Doesn't matter if it's no good. You need to learn. I've got a book in the cupboard here that's like 285 pages that I just stopped halfway through a sentence. I said, this is just crap. And this is about 30 years ago. I said, I wouldn't want to read this. I don't even want to keep writing it. I was trying to write something that was not for me and stubbornly drove myself through it. But it just, and then I looked at it and said, this doesn't, hey, you know, okay. So failure is your best teacher. I learned from that. This is not right. I need to go away and write something else. Uh, and also, not copy people you admire, but read them and soak in everything that they write and go, okay, yeah, that's great. Maybe I can do something similar or something along those lines, the same but different. You obviously don't want to, you know, copy people blindly because that's not creative. You want to bring yourself to the work, you know, bring what you've got. Nobody else, nobody knows what they're going to write the next day. Even if you've got it plotted, you don't know the exact words that are going to come out. So it's entirely up to you. You're going forward into the ocean by yourself in your own boat where nobody's gone before. And you've got to just have the sheer stubbornness and the drive and the willingness to learn to go ahead and do it. And if you wreck a few boats on the way and have to swim to shore and start another boat later, sooner or later you'll get the hang of it or you'll give up. But there's no point in not trying, and B, it's all the lessons of the unsuccessful works or the half successful works and the rejection slips when you get a rejection from an agent saying not for us or this wasn't good enough. Take that as being good advice. And also there are classes you can go to. There are writing groups, plenty on the internet now. I don't know anything about them myself because I'm beyond that stage in the career, but I've talked to other writers who sing the praises of and there are fellow writers who will critique you honestly. You will show each other a few pages of your work and you will get feedback. So, writing is quite a solitary business. So I think that is great what I hear from other, particularly young or inexperienced writers, is the support they get from their writing groups. So I hope that helps.
Well, Richard, I appreciate you so much for taking time to come on the podcast today to talk with me and share a lot about your book and what you've been working on and just really be an inspiration to so many writers. Um, Feel free to, where can people go to learn more information about your books and where can people go to follow you and support you on your journey?
RichardSparks.com. It's just as it's spelled, there's no E in Sparks. And there are links to the various website things like Instagram and stuff, which I don't do. My assistant um, runs that for me, but that's where you can start the journey. And if you like adventures which have, things going wrong in them, including funny things, you might be interested in the New Rock series. New Rock New Roll was the first one. What's the second one? New Rock New Realm. New Rock New Rules just came out, and the last one is New Rock New Roads. That's coming out in March. So it's out there, and I would be delighted to see anyone there.
And I will put all of his information in the description box below, links to all his books, links to his website, socials, everything will be down below. So feel free to go check him out and follow him to see what he has going on in the future. Feel free to follow the podcast on the socials. So you can reach out to me on Instagram and TikTok at southern.reads. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Noah's Podcasts. And feel free to go to my website, noahspodcasts.com, to learn more about this show as well as the other shows that I do. There you'll find links on my socials and links to where the podcast is available. Feel free to follow or subscribe so that you get notified of when new episodes like this come out in the future. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in to today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. Have a great rest of your day. Be safe, and I will catch you all in the next episode of Southern Reads.